Hi guys. So this year our company moved from on-prem Active Directory directly to Entra ID. So we skipped the step with the hybrid environment, and so we are cloud only right now. So it took us some time because I wanted to be perfectly sure that we know the technology enough, that we don't do any security mistake. You know, our company is a managed service provider. So we take care about tens of customers, and we know that if we screw up, our customers are in danger as well. So I studied a lot and I have prepared some internet materials for my colleague. But then I realized that maybe the others could benefit from it as well. So right now I'm releasing it public on YouTube. So I hope you will enjoy it and you will find some interesting stuff in my training. Okay, so the training is divided in 3 parts because it's several hours long. The first part is about initial vector or attack surface of Azure AD or Entra ID. So to begin, I'd like to do some introduction to Entra ID. So what's Entra ID? Entra ID is a new name of Azure Active Directory, which has been here for years already. But I guess Microsoft realized that they need to change the name so it doesn't sound too much like on-prem Active Directory, because otherwise it looks like Active Directory and Azure Active Directory. Probably those are the same technologies, but just one is run in cloud. But unfortunately, that's not true. Like, these technologies are so different. The Entra ID is newer, and while Microsoft was designing it, they could benefit from like new architecture, new stereotypes, and they could make it better and more secure, and they could like cut the legacy pieces from on-prem Active Directory. So with Entra ID, we can move security further, but it's not without drawbacks, you know. So why I think it's important to speak and learn about Entra ID. One thing is that if you look on-premise, we see that the ransomware groups or ransomware actors are much better in Active Directory than the defenders, especially with the security stuff and the inner workings, like the more technical stuff. That's why many companies finds out they are encrypted totally, and the time which runs between like initial compromise to like full compromise is usually just hours for the attackers, because they can benefit from mistakes that the defenders do. The thing is that the attackers, they just need to know small part of the Active Directory, but for the defenders they need to know like everything, and they usually have to run the information systems, run VPNs, run routers, servers, applications, support the user. So they are fully utilized and they don't have time like to learn and to educate and to like work with the small granularity of the configuration of Active Directory. But nevertheless, look, like Active Directory has been here for 15 years, almost like in the shape like it's right now, and still the defenders, they don't know it properly to defend the Active Directory. And right now we have Entra ID here, which is like the same beast. It's the same size, it's the same complexity like Active Directory. So the probability that the defenders don't know Entra ID is really big. But on the other side, almost all the companies, they have Entra ID tenant, because once you use some service from Office 365 like Teams or Exchange Online or SharePoint or OneDrive, you have Entra ID tenant. But usually you don't have to manage it, because you have something like Azure AD Connect, which synchronizes the stuff into the cloud, so you manage everything on-prem, and you usually don't need to like work with the Entra ID console. But the thing is that the technology is still there, and there can be some default setting which can be not so secure as it should be, and the attackers, they will probably learn faster than the defenders. So I believe like we have a problem like which is current, and it's a problem which will last for some years as well. So we have to speak about the security of Entra ID and about the proper configuration. So that's why I also started with this intern training for my colleagues. Look, so what's Entra ID? Like, from my point of view, it's primarily identity provider. And the identity provider brings us something like single sign-on. It's the same like Active Directory. So you create a user, you provide him with one set of credentials, and he can log into all the enterprise applications. And you have just one username, which provides you like nice user experience, so they don't have to learn a lot of things. The same for you, like for the admins, it's an onboarding and offboarding, because you create the user just once and you assign him privileges to log on to other services or to other applications as well. It helps us with security because all the sign-in logs and audit logs, they are in one place. So even the user is logging into several applications which are run across the internet or across the enterprise, you still have one signing logs or one place where to look for signing logs. And as well, Azure Active Directory or Entra ID brings us native multi-factor application support, which is great because to have MFA on-prem is not so easy. And as well, it's a technology which was brought back to Active Directory, and usually it's not working so great like for Azure Active Directory, because on-prem you can protect the interactive sessions mostly, like when you are logging through the keyboard and mouse, or you are using a remote desktop protocol to access some workstation remotely. But still there are other authentication methods which doesn't support MFA. And even if a user has MFA, you can still use his credentials to access other resources without doing MFA. So Azure Entra ID is much more advanced. And as well, like the big leap in security are the conditional access policies, because with them we can control who can access what kind of resources, under which conditions, and with which privileges. It's very important because on-prem we didn't have such a control. So the other advantage of Azure AD is that we can protect as well on-prem applications. Even if Entra ID is like cloud solution, we can still protect on-prem applications. And Entra ID comes with other technologies like Intune, which brings something like group policies, information protection, Defender, and privileged identity management, which works well together. So I would say that Entra ID is a big leap in security, which gives us possibility to not fight just the ransomware, but as well fight data exfiltration or data leaks. So if we look on Active Directory and Entra ID, we can see that they share some common features, like there are users, groups, devices, and some kind of policies. So those are the similarities. But on the other side, they are so different. Like for example, if we will look on the management interfaces, you can see that on-prem Active Directory, you were supposed to run your DCs. You were supposed to patch the operating systems the DCs were using, and it was your responsibility to patch and backup it. On the other side, Microsoft Entra ID is brought to you like a software as a service. So you just have the management interface, but you don't know where the technology runs. And you don't have to back up the controllers. You don't even know where are the controllers. And the interface is like web page, so you can control it with your browser. The other difference is the authentication mechanisms which are being used. On Active Directory, we have NTLM and Kerberos. On the other side, on Microsoft Entra ID, it's primarily OAuth and SAML. And as well, what's different is the login prompts, which you can see. When you are logging into your on-prem environment, you usually can log in with password or smart card. And in Microsoft Entra ID, there is more like credentials providers which you can use. You can log in with passwordless solution. You can log in with password. You can log in with certificates, Windows Hello for Business, FIDO keys. So if we look on it, so there's a table. I took it from Microsoft, and you can see what are the login possibilities or credential providers in Entra ID. The ones which has like primary application ES means that you can log in with them, and the others, they can be used for MFA or for self-serve password reset. So it's a big difference. It requires that the administrators, they think differently about the environment right now, especially in case when some account is compromised. You have to look on much more places to like solve the compromise of an account. But let's speak about it in the third part of our internet training. So let's start with the attack surface. With attack surface, I mean like how can the attackers, they can get initial foothold into the environment. So there are different possibilities. Stuff I'm going to show you is based on the attacks they are just occurring right now in the wild, and as well on something which is being talked about, but it's not happening in the wild, but probably it will in a near future. And if we are speaking about the attacks, I will focus just on cloud-only environments. I will not bring right now the environments which are hybrid, because they have like on-prem Active Directory and Entra ID in the cloud, which is synchronized. Because like all the attacks on the cloud, they work in hybrid environment as well, but the hybrid environment brings more complexity and other types of attacks. But I will speak about some in the other part of the training, or the second training. So I told you that Microsoft Entra ID looks safer because it's newer, it doesn't have so much legacy stuff, and it brings us newer security technologies. So what's the problem? Okay, so I think what changed a lot is that even if it's safer, we are using the technologies a little bit more relaxed right now. So let me explain. For example, when we had Active Directory, you had to be in your local area network just to exploit or to misuse the AD. But with cloud and Entra ID, everybody can access your environment. Everybody can access your Entra ID because it's cloud. The other thing is that in the on-premise Active Directory, you need it that the admin allows you to connect your computer to access company's data. So the environment was more isolated. It wasn't accessible through internet, and as well it was accessible just for the company's devices. But right now we are speaking about bring your own device and working from home devices, which are not under control of the IT. So these two factors, they consume much of the security progress we did with Entra ID. But let me explain in future demonstrations. So the most common way how to get compromised is by phishing. If we say phishing, it sounds like it's simple, but no, phishing is complex because the phishing has different goals. Some of the goals can be like to deliver a malware on the computer of the victim. I will skip lucky demonstration of this threat because I can show you later what can do malware on the device. But other thing which we can achieve with phishing is credential stealing. So a couple of years ago, for one conference, I prepared a demo of bypassing MFA. I prepared it because many people thought that with MFA the phishing will stop, which is not true, of course. But I just wanted to demonstrate it because demonstration is much better than just speaking about the stuff. So I recorded this demonstration, which I will comment to you right now. So with the demonstration, I will be targeting Outlook.com and then Office 365 account. The video is in full length. So you can see all the commands which are necessary to set up that evil Jinx, which is a open source software for this kind of phishing. So the evil Jinx, what does is like, it's a proxy. So you set up the evil Jinx, then you send the link to the victim, and when the victim accesses the links, it goes to the evil Jinx server and it forwards everything to like the proper destination. In this case, it will be Outlook.com and as well Office 365. So thing is that the user cannot see any difference in the content of the web page. The only difference or only way how he can realize that he's being phished is that he's in different URL. The URL is not like the original one, like Outlook.com or loginmicrosoftonline.com. So that's the only difference. But otherwise, the attacker server has certificates, valid certificates as well, because the evil Jinx will take care about everything. He will contact Let's Encrypt and he will get Let's Encrypt certificates. So right now we see the victim's computer. I used a phishing email which delivers PDF file, and if the victim opens the PDF file, there is some kind of agreement and it's written that it's protected by Microsoft Information Rights Management. So if the victim wants to see the full content of the agreement, he has to log in into the web page. So when the victim clicks on the link, it's redirected to the web server of the attacker. So you can see it's not like login.outlook.com, but it's under attacker's domain. But otherwise, the functionality of the web page is like full. So the victim provides username, password, and later on it's asked for MFA. So right now the victim is in its Outlook. Still the URL is the attacker's server, which proxies everything to the original Microsoft servers. So the victim cannot say from the functionality something's wrong. So if we look on the server of the attacker, we see that he was able to capture the username and password in clear text. For that reasons we have that MFA, so just username and password is useless for the attacker. But what he has right now is as well session cookie, which he can pass to his browser and he will be logged as the victim. So he can access all the victim's data. So to demonstrate it, I just copied the cookies, open the browser. If I will go to outlook.com or outlook.cz, I will see that we are not signed in. So right now we import the cookie. And if we will try to access the web page again, we will be logged in as the user. So that was phishing against like Microsoft Live account, like the personal one. But with evil Jinx we can attack or target companies' accounts as well. So to demonstrate it, I just changed the configuration of evil Jinx to access or to prepare the fishlet for the companies or for the Office 365 account. And as well, I demonstrated in the demo that there immediately when the phishing server was like exposed to the internet, there has been a lot of traffic going on into the phishing server from different bots or watch servers looking if this IP address is not a phishing IP address. But for that, Evil Jinx has as well solution, and it's like if you will access the Evil Jinx server without proper variable or secret, you will be presented with harmless web page. But only when accessing the server with like proper variable, you will get the phishing web page. So it tries to help, or it tries to stay undetected from the security technologies for a longer time. So right now we are configuring the fishlets for Office 365 accounts. And we will do the phishing the same way, like we have prepared the PDF, which right now brings user to the Office 365 login screen when it's clicked. So I will provide my email address to login, and you can see that from legacy or from all time, I have like 2 accounts under same email. It's like personal account and the work account. On that you can see that EvilJinx is just really a proxy server, and the functionality is the same like you would be on the legit sites of Microsoft, because EvilJinx will provide the data the victim sends to Microsoft, and Microsoft responds, and EvilJinx it just forwards the data back to the victim. So with that, like the functionality is perfect. Even like I just wanted to say that if this site would be just a fake site, set it up, the attacker would know that under the same email there are multiple accounts. So, and the same functionality is like that even the company branding portal, some people were saying like, if you use company branding portal because it's a security feature, because when you will be on phishing site, there won't be the company branding. But that's not true, as you can see, because EvilJinx just proxies it. So even if you would be changing it every 5 minutes, like the victim cannot say from the content of the web page that it's on phishing website. Only how you can say you are being phished is by you inspecting URL, the domain of the website where you are. So as well, you can see that I'm using passwordless to authenticate to the portal, just to see or just to demonstrate to you that even these kind of modern authentication methods are not perfect or are still vulnerable. So we are logged in, we can work with our account, but if we switch back to the attacker's computer, we see that this time we don't have the password, because I used passwordless authentication method, so there is no password. But still, we have this session cookie. So if we take the session cookie and import it into the browser, we will get the identity. So firstly, let's try to access the portal office.com, not authenticated. So right now, import the cookie we captured from the user. And access the portal again. And right now we are authenticated. So that was a demonstration I did a few years ago. So since then things has moved. Right now Microsoft introduced us some like authentication strengths of authentication methods. So right now we have some phishing resistant MFA methods, which means like they cannot be used or they are immune to this kind of phishing attacks. But you will see in next demonstrations that still there are some attacks which can like break or pass through phishing resistant MFAs. So maybe it can sound like MFA is worthless because it can be still phished, but that's not true. Like just implementing MFA improves security a lot. It's just to say that it's not immune. So you have to like do MFA and then like to think about other security measures which you can take. That's it. So just to show you how we can bypass some phishing resistant methods, and as well how can like the phishing can be targeted or what can be the payload of the phishing. So we had like malware execution and as well like phishing for credentials. So right now we can have one phishing for illicit consent grant. It's not something new or I would invent. No, it's from other people, and I'm just demonstrating and doing some summary for you. So I will be using this tool 365 Stealer, which is an open source. You can get it on GitHub. So I have set it up, and right now what we need to do is again to phish the user. So I prepared some email to phish the user. I said that, hey, look, Diego, we have some security analyzer application which goes through your Office 365 and tells you if it's secured or if you should implement some other configuration. So if he clicks the link, the link is valid. It's not a phishing link. The link will bring you on the site which tells you that it will bring you. The thing is just that when you will land on this site, it will tell you, okay, but to analyze your environment, we need you to give us permission to your environment. So the victim clicks on the link, which brings him to Office 365. So as I said, this is not like social engineering. This is not like a phishing like the last time we wanted to get the credentials of the user. Right now we want to have just a grant from the user. And what you see right now is it's a legit Microsoft site which tells us if we want to give an application access to your data. So it tells us that who is logged right now. Diego, he didn't need to log in to Office 365 because he's logged all the time because he's working on a company's computer. So he's logged in already. So it tells us who will give the permissions to which application. Okay, the good thing is that we are being warned that the application, it's called M365 Security Analyzer, but the developer is unverified. And even it tells us that the application is not published by Microsoft. And the important thing is that it tells us if you will accept it, you will give access to that application, to your emails, to all your files, to setting of your mailbox, and so on. The thing is that it's a social engineering, and it's targeting on uneducated users that they don't know what they are doing. And once they click accept, the application will get access to all of the data. We will see it shortly. But I wanted to show you that, for example, our company, Microsoft partners, we can publish applications and have the verification mark. So this is how it would look like if we would, if it would be provided through our partner account. It looks much more legit. I just wanted to show you and to say that even the attackers, they can do one step extra and to have the verification. And once the victim clicks accept, he is redirected back to some legit site. It's not a problem. But the attack is already done because the attacker right now is able to read user data directly from Office 365. The user can log out now, shut down his computer, it doesn't matter because the attacker has access to his data for now till forever, till the grant is revoked, which usually doesn't happen because during the audits I could see how the tenants look. And there are hundreds of applications which, similar grants, provided on every company. Okay, so right now, if we will refresh the web page, we will see that we have one folder of the Diego, and we can see that the Office 365 Stealer just did a copy of his OneDrive, and we can see the files which he has in his OneDrive. Sometimes we can find some interesting stuff there, for example, password databases. And what we also have is full copy of his mail messages, and we can search in it. For example, if some passwords to some other services are being provided through mails, or some shared links are provided, or some links to shared data are provided through mail, or maybe we can do some password recovery at some other service because the recovery email will be this company's email. So That's what we have right now. But it's more like we have access to data, and what we can do with the data is more like a topic of lateral movement, which is a topic of part 2 of this intern training. So the 365 stealer as well allows us to like send emails in the name of the victim, upload new files to that to the victim's OneDrive, and as well create Outlook rules. But we will see it later on. So I wanted to say that, for example, for this kind of attack, the URL inspection doesn't help at all, because we are using legit Microsoft services or flows. It's an attack against, it's a social engineering attack misusing the user and knowledge of the stuff, how it's working. And even now I can see, or I can meet a lot of admins who doesn't know how applications are working in Entra ID. As well, MFA doesn't help at all. Even the phishing resistant application doesn't help, because we are not targeting against application method. We are just misusing, or we are just trying to victim to give us access to his data. And for that we are using like regular functionality of Office 365, because you can do this stuff for good things and bad things, or like it can be misused by attackers, like I've demonstrated. And as well, usually conditional access doesn't stop us, because once application is granted access, conditional access doesn't help us. We will have to use like default deny to like deny all applications and just do exceptions which applications can be used, or user can to which applications users can log in. So even the requirement on phishing resistant application method or compliant device doesn't help. And I wanted to point out as well that once the attacker is granted with this access, it's a long-term access. Like if the attacker is working well with the refresh tokens, it can stay, or it can have access to user data forever. Another attack I will demonstrate with tool Road Recon. You can find it on GitHub, and it's done by Dirk. It's like a great guy. He did a lot of research. Like I guess he's one of the best on Entra ID right now. And what you do is that you will misuse device code flow. Like again, it's like a proper functionality of Office 365 which was meant to help you log in on devices which don't have keyboard or mouse or proper monitor. So they can connect to Office 365 and say, hey, I want to log in, but I cannot do the login on myself, but I will log in on different computer and authorize this login on this kind of embedded device, for example. So what we need to do is like engineer the victim to go to that URL and provide that code and authenticate. So we do some phishing email to write down that the user has to verify his identity, otherwise the account will be deleted. So when the user clicks on the link, he's brought to like proper Microsoft site. So like anti-phishing technology will not help, anti-spam will not help because it's like a proper URL. The user provides the code, and then he has to sign in. So he signs in. I just wanted to demonstrate that you can sign in with, for example, Windows Hello for Business, which is like phishing resistant application method. And after he's logged in, again, he's warned that like what his action is going to do, that he will be signed on other device. And if he continues, the attacker will receive tokens and he will be signed in as the user. So if we continue, we can run Road Recon Gather to do some reconnaissance of the tenant to see what are the users, what are the applications, what are the devices. Or we can do just other stuff as well. So again, some summary for that. Your inspection won't help MFA, neither. Phishing resistant authentication method doesn't help as well. You can help yourself with conditional access that you will, for example, require hybrid or compliant devices, because this claim won't be like the attacker's machine doesn't, or the attacker's machine will not receive these claims in the tokens, but I will explain it later on. And again, it's a long-term access. Just as I should say as well that, for example, the code which is provided will be valid just for 15 minutes. I mean the code which the victim has to put inside that web page. But the attackers, they can bypass it by phishing user to go on their website, and once the user is on that website, the code will be generated. So the user will be able to authenticate in 15 minutes. Because otherwise, if we send the phishing email at the morning, but the user will be able to access the email and do the login in afternoon, the code won't be valid anymore. So that's why the phishing has to be done in 15 minutes, or we have to somehow provide victim with a fresh code. But on the other side, right now I've been on another conference and the speaker was warning that the problem of the emails right now is that emails can contain JavaScript. And once the emails can contain JavaScript, we can generate fresh emails or dynamic emails. So we can fetch the code once the user is viewing the email. But I guess that's a different story. So right now, if we saw what can be the payloads or the targets of the phishing, we should look more closely on open authentication protocol, which is used by Entra ID, because understanding of the technical stuff is very important to have a better picture of the stuff. So on Active Directory, on-premise technology, the problem of the defenders is they thought that the most important stuff is just password, the clear text password. But there are some other artifacts which the attackers are misusing, because once the attackers, they land on some computer or some servers, they are just dumping what's there, they are just looting the device. And if on the device, and especially on the servers, there is RDP connection open from domain administrator, they just run Mimikatz or some other tool. For example, they can dump LSAS, download it and parse the LSAS, and from that LSAS, maybe they won't have the plaintext credentials because it's a couple of years this kind of plaintext credentials was turned off, but they will have NT hashes and as well TGT tickets for Kerberos. And with that, it's enough for them. They cannot open RDP connection to other servers, but they can use, for example, PESExec, or they can call WMI remotely to other computers. So actually with NT hashes and the TGT tickets, they can control the whole network if they receive domain admin. And even if it's not domain admin, they usually on servers find some other powerful user which will be admin on some other servers. So they will repeat the same step on the other servers, and with that they usually reach domain admin privileges, and then they are able to compromise the whole network, to encrypt everything and to destroy the backups. So the question is, do we have something similar like anti-hashes and TGT tickets in Entra ID? And answer, yes, we have tokens there. And it works like that for example, that open out, user visits some information system, for example, is.mhlab.cz. But The application to this information system is integrated to Entra ID. So the information system redirects user to Microsoft. Microsoft does the application of the user and redirects user back to the information system and provides the system with an ID token. And the ID token tells to the information system, look, this user has been authenticated and this is his identity. So information system knows who's that user without knowing his credentials, without not revealing password or any other secret to that information system. That's nice, and that's a big improvement from on-prem Active Directory. So as I thought, like the application to the information system is done without disclosing the password. But what if the information system wants to access some data stored in some other system? For example, Microsoft Outlook works with the tokens as well, but he needs to access like Exchange Online to fetch the email. So how he does that? He does that in the way that user visits the information system. Information system redirects user to Office 365, user authenticates, or if it's already authenticated, then he is immediately redirected back to information system. In this case, the user is provided not just with ID token, but with access and refresh token as well. And these tokens are received by the server which is hosting the information system. And that information system, or that server, web hosting server, can use the access token to go to Microsoft Exchange Online, provide him with access token, and ask for user data. So with that information system, server can access user data in different systems, thanks to the access and refresh token. But still, the information system cannot access other data than the access token allows him, for example, SharePoint. And the information system doesn't know user's password. So, to go back to the tokens. So there are like 3 types of tokens, as we have seen in the picture. So there's an ID token, there's an access token, and refresh token. The ID token just proves the user identity. Access token gives the bearer access to a defined resource, for example, to that Exchange Online. And the validity is like between 60 to 90 minutes. It's a random, it's like 75 minutes plus minus 15 minutes random. It's just some, I guess, load optimization from Microsoft. A refresh token is similar like access token, but it's used just to get new access tokens once the access token is expired. And the refresh token is valid from 90 days to like infinity, that it doesn't expire. It has to be like handled well, that every 90 days you ask for new refresh token. Or actually, once you ask for access token, you get a new refresh token. And okay, so we know that access token and refresh tokens, they have some audience, that they are used to access some service or some data on some service. But if access token is like its audience is just Exchange Online, and you will try to access SharePoint Online, it will be denied the access. And another thing, how it's limited, it's scoping of permissions. So usually the user who logs into some application, for example Outlook, has some permissions or some privileges. And then the application which is registered in Office 365 like Outlook has some permissions. And only the intersection of the permissions will be written to the token. And it's a little bit complicated, but once we will be exploring the tokens, you will see. And important thing is that all the tokens are sensitive. They are almost the same like credentials. Maybe credentials are a little bit more universal. They can be used to all the services, but the tokens are scoped to an application and to privileges. But still, who has the access token, he can access the data. So if someone steals the access token from Outlook, he can access data from PowerShell as well. and from different computer. But you will see. Okay, so I have been speaking about Outlook. So maybe you have noticed that once you had Exchange Online and you were using modern authentication, that once you were accessing Exchange Online through Outlook, the login form looks different than it used to look. So once you open Outlook, you provide your email address, and when Outlook detects it's Exchange Online, he will open a different window where you will do login. The login will look like you are logging to Office 365 through web browser. And it's like true, because if we would open Process Explorer and look on that window we have on the right, you would see it's not a child process found under Outlook, but it's a different system process. So Outlook never receives the password. He just receives the token, which are the product of this logging into the Office 365. So then you are greeted. You can sign to all your applications. In that case, the device will be probably registered to Entra ID, or you can sign just to that application, which is Outlook. And in that case, Outlook has tokens which he used to access the Exchange Online. So to look more closely on the tokens. So you could see that as we were using the 365 dealer, there in the folder there has been some text files which were called access token and refresh token. So if we open the access token, we can see some string. It's a GWT token, it's a JSON web token. It's a base 64 URL safe encoding and of JSON object. And we can go to the site, for example, jwt.ms, which is run by Microsoft, and paste the token into that web page, and the web page will parse it for us. Okay, I told you like that tokens are sensitive information, so we cannot or shouldn't share it with anyone. This is a little bit exception, because like this web page doesn't uploads the token everywhere. Everything is parsed in your browser, and of course you shouldn't believe like the services, but I've analyzed the code and checked the description, and I know that it's not being sent to anywhere. And as well, for all the demonstrations, I'm using just a demo tenant, which doesn't have like productive data, so I don't have to be scared. So you can see that the token was parsed, and there are three types of colors, because JWT contains, or it's made of three parts. It's a header, body, and footer. The header contains information about what key was used to sign the token. The footer contains the signature, and the body contains like the claims. So if we look more closely on the claims, so important claims are following claims. That's the audience. It's like, who is the target audience of this token? So who I can access or approach with this token and give him this token. So in this case, we see that it's a graphmicrosoft.com. As well, the token has some validity. So you see the validity is like almost 90 minutes. Then we have some claims which they say what authentication mechanism was used to authenticate user and create this token. And you can see that there is PWD, password, MFA, and RSA. And RSA is there probably because the user was authenticated by Windows Hello for Business as well. We can see for which application was this token created, and that's that MC365 script analyzer which we have created. Device ID, it's this token has claim because to access this application, that M365 analyzer, user used device registered or joined to Entra ID. And then there is the identity of the authenticated user. Then there is the scope of privileges which the token bears. So the audience can look on the scope and knows what kind of operations can be done with this token. The privileges, they are like described in the Microsoft documentation, so you can find there more about it. For example, which API calls can be done, or which privileges you need to do specific API calls. And that's that access token. And everybody who has that token can access Graph API. And then we have another token, which is a refresh token. If you will try to parse it, we will see it cannot be parsed, because the difference between access and refresh token is that access token is signed, but refresh token is encrypted, and we don't have the encryption/decryption key, just Microsoft has it, because the audience for the refresh token is just Microsoft service. So we don't know what's inside the refresh token, but the claims probably, like, it will be very similar to access token. The claims will be the same because access token is made from the refresh token. We could see from the demonstration of the refresh token that it was expired already. But with that Office 365 stealer, I told you we have refresh token as well, so we can ask for new tokens, which I did with that get new token. And right now we can see that the date has updated, and if we will take the new token and put it into the jvt.ms, we will see that our access token is now like valid. It's within his validity period. And as I have told you, like the bearer of the token, he can access like the data of that audience. So I can take the token, put it into the PowerShell, and call an API which gives us inbox information or inbox emails. So right now you see that we were provided with all the emails in mailbox folder of that victim. So this is it. And as well, the road recon tool received tokens. The tokens were provided from that device code flow, and if we will check the token and look on the claims, we will see the audience is different. It's a graph.windows.net. As well, it has some validity, and we can see another claims. These claims are what was used to authenticate the user, and we used FIDO. So we have claimed that FIDO was used for authentication. And as well, there is the scope. The user privileges is user impersonation, which is a special privilege, which says the token is scope unlimited, like that all the permissions the user has or the privileges user has, it's the same for the token. It's not like that this token would be a universal token and we can use it to access all the audience. No, it's still scope to audience, which is the graph.windows.net, but it's not limited with any privileges. And what user could do himself personally with graph.windows.net, the bearer of this token can as well. So even if we will go on a regular computer of the victim, and we will be in browser and we will open the developer toolbar, we can look for the tokens, because the tokens are used while using web interface of the services as well. So if we will look for the tokens by a non-prefix, we find the token and we can put it into jvt.ms, and we will see that the token is valid. As well, we will see the audience and authentication mechanisms, which is like almost everything there. And as well, we will see for which application it was issued. And as well, we see that it was issued on some device which is known for Entra ID, which is known to Entra ID. And as well, the scope. So except those tokens, this access, refresh, and identity token, we have primary refresh token, PRT, as well. It's not a standard thing, it's thing made by Microsoft, and it's done to have like full single sign-on experience. So this primary refresh token is not scoped to any audience. So you can change or exchange this primary refresh token for any refresh token. So who has this PRT token is in control of whole user's identity, simply said. And these PRT tokens, they are on every Entra ID joined, hybrid, registered, or registered device for the user who is logged in right now. And because those tokens, they are very sensitive and powerful, they should be protected by TPM. I guess that's the reason why Microsoft requires TPM for Windows 11, because TPM is crucial in this case. If there is TPM on the computer, the PRT token cannot be extracted, so cannot be stolen from the device. If TPM is not used, the attacker, he can copy the PRT token and he will be in control of user's identity. So that's why we have to protect the PRT tokens. So the goal of PRT tokens is not to disclose passwords to applications, because if application has our password, he has whole access to our identity. If we give just tokens to the application will be scoped to access just some limit part of our data with limited privileges. So that's a better outcome or better resolution. But why to do it on company's computers? Because on company PC there is the PRT token. So if someone misuse or steal the PRT token, everything will be compromised. And as well, on company's computer, you usually access all the resources. So there will be tens of access and refresh tokens. So will that help? No, in this case, not too much, but it will help a lot in scenario with bring your own device or mobile devices, because the BYOD, they use just some limited applications. For example, they just need to access email or OneDrive, but they don't need to access the rest of the enterprise applications. So what's the problem with BYOD? One thing is that the company's computers, we as a defenders, we usually have some baselines. We need that the device is supported, it's being patched, it's being monitored. So if something goes wrong, we know about it. And it's under some EDR or antivirus software. But with that personal computers, we don't know what the users are doing there. The users are administrators of that devices. They don't usually have antivirus. And even if they do, we don't have any logs from that antivirus. We don't know if the user is using up-to-date operating system. We don't know if the user is not downloading some malware, or if the computer is not compromised. And that's especially a case of many ransomware attacks we have been solving, that users were working on personal computers from home using VPN integrated into the environment, but on the same device they had a keylogger or some stealer, because the home users, they usually use pirated software cracks and they come with malware. So that's how the credentials to access enterprise environment got leaked, sold on some forum. Ransomware threat actors, they bought it and attacked the enterprise. Okay, and the thing is that on that personal account or devices, when you log in, you still have, even if you don't have password anymore there, you still have some access tokens and refresh tokens and cookies, which can be misused by the attackers. Or maybe when you are logging into the device for the first time to receive the tokens, there is already a keylogger and the attackers, they will steal it. So bring your own devices, and it's an issue. It's a stuff you have to think about to be able to protect your environment successfully. So just to demonstrate you how can the token stealing can look like. So imagine that this is a personal device and user has configured his Outlook. So Outlook is actually accessing Office 365. What we can do, like attackers, simply is to open Task Manager, do a memory dump, and in that memory dump we can look for strings, and we will be looking for access tokens. Those actions, they are quite legit. So usually the antivirus or EDR won't alert. So if we run this script, we will get tokens, and we are interested just in tokens for graph Microsoft.com. So there will be plenty of the tokens just in the Outlook process, and because I don't know where one begins or ends, I will just dump one token. And right now, if we have the token, we can validate it in jvt.ms. Or use it directly in some PowerShell API. So in this case, again, we will fetch the user's emails just with that access token we have stolen. And we see that we have all the emails from user's mailbox. And because, which is strange, but that's it. Outlook can access, or the scope in the token is that we can access as well files. Through that graph API, we can list all the files user has in his OneDrive. And we can see that in that output, there is as well download URLs, which can be used to download the files. So with another few lines of code, we can download all the files user has in his OneDrive. And then we can search those files. The important thing is that you access tokens. Once you have access token, the conditional access is not valid anymore. It's not evaluated. So we are fine. We are fine even if we are using different IP address. Of course, in this case, we can still trigger some other technologies like continuous access evaluation, but it depends how smart and how smart we are and how loud we are while working and doing this stuff. So to see the token claims, we can check the audience, which is graphmicrosoft.com. We see how it got authenticated, the user. We see who is the application used to, or for which application it was issued, the token, or it's like the application it's scoped to, and then there is device ID, because the device on which for which the token was issued was registered to Entra ID. And then we have the scope, and the scope is quite wide, so we can do a lot of things with the token. And even if the token is just valid for 60 minutes approximately, you can see that you can do a lot of stuff, because you are not downloading the data from victim's computer but directly from the cloud, so the connectivity is fine. And as well, you can be interested just in a part of the data, so 60 minutes is fine. And so I told you we are back on victim's computer, and we could get the access token from a memory dump of the process. But there is a simpler access, because the system applications, they usually use some system APIs to handle these tokens. So there is a place in Windows which stores all these access tokens, and those are protected by DPI. And for that, we don't need administrator privileges. Just user privileges, user context is enough for us, and we can decode and get all these access tokens for other applications as well. So right now we can just filter tokens which will be for Graph API. And again, we have token which we can immediately use to exfiltrate data on different computer. So you see, to know about tokens is very important, because even if we protect the user identities with MFA or conditional access or like these phishing resistant authentication methods, everything in next step tokens are created, and the tokens can be stolen, and doesn't matter what authentication method you used, the token is protected still the same. Okay, so we were stealing access tokens. I believe that the similar can be done for refresh tokens. Maybe they are a little bit better protected on the computers, or because I haven't been able to find them, but it doesn't matter. I think I haven't spent much time with it. And if we would steal a refresh token, it would give us like infinite amount of time to exfiltrate the user data. So you can exfiltrate it now and even after half a year. Then we can misuse PRT tokens. I told you they are protected by TPM, but if we are in control of the victim's computer, every time we can tell, or we can instruct the victim's computer to use PRT to create new refresh token and to provide it to us. So we can use the victim's computer like a puppet. And every time we need to be authenticated as the victim, we just ask the computer to do the authentication for us. And as I told you, like, the safety of token doesn't matter, or it's not related to the authentication method used to authenticate to Office 365. And conditional access is evaluated only during access token issuance. So once you go with the refresh token to Office 365 to receive new access token, in that case, the conditional access are evaluated, but not when you go with access token to access any data. No, it's too late. So last but not least, I have one special case which gives me wrinkles, and it's about, for our customers and as well for ourselves, we use SSL, we use FortiGate, and we use FortiSSL VPN, which is integrated with Office 365. And it's not like the issue of the FortiSSL VPN. It's like generic problem, and I will show you. So we use the SSL VPN which is integrated with Office 365, and we require that you use FIDO keys because those are phishing resistant and it's like most strong authentication method. So you can see that as it's integrated with Office 365, so once I click that I want to log into VPN, browser is opened and I have to sign in to Office 365. I want to show you that if in that browser I open another tab and go to the portaloffice.com, I'm not logged in. So let's sign in into the VPN. I do it with FIDO key, pick the identity, and it asks me if I want to stay signed in. No, I don't want to stay signed in because I'm logging or connecting from a personal device, and I don't want to be signed there anymore once the VPN is like connected. So I say no. Now the VPN client is opened and the VPN is connecting. That's fine. And I can close the browser which is behind. But now comes the thing I want to demonstrate to you. So because now if I open the portaloffice.com, even I said I don't want to stay signed in, I'm signed in into the portaloffice.com. So it means that just to log into VPN or to authenticate to VPN, I have opened a whole identity, or I have logged fully on that personal device. And even I would close like the browser immediately. I want to just point out that if attacker is present in the computer and he is like skilled, he can have script or malware. He will be waiting for that event, and once the event comes, he steals session cookies, which I will demonstrate in GUI, but you can do it programmatically as well. So as the user is fully signed in into the Office 365, probably there is the session cookie for that Office 365 application. So like, let's try to steal the cookie. So to steal it, I can use the developer toolbar, which is present in Office 365. And again, I just take the right cookie there, which it's this one. And if I bring this cookie to an attacker computer and import it into the browser, we would like set up it properly. And now again, access the portal. I will be signed in as the victim, even on a different computer. And this session cookie is the same like PRT. With that, we have full user identity. So we can open every application. We can even log inside that VPN from that computer without any problems. And everything is authenticated by FIDO key. So it will go through conditional access policies which requires like strong authentication. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we can see what kind of tokens do we have and what kinds do the tokens have. So again, we can copy it, paste it into JVTMS. The claims, and we see that this token we just copied is for Outlook and or Office 365, and the authentication method is that FIDO, and as well there is MFA claim. Okay, so this looks like this is an issue because we wanted to have like VPN connected to or integrated into the Office 365, so the users, they don't have to like remember multiple credentials, as well have just one MFA authenticator. And we thought that if they will use it on personal computers, you know, not whole identity will be endangered, but just the VPN connection. But as you can see, like even connecting to VPN, the whole identity of the user was opened or endangered on that victim computer. And if the attackers, they steal the cookie, they can access the user's identity for a longer time. And maybe they can misuse it for lateral movement or do persistence with that, but that's part 2 of our intern training. So another interesting stuff is, okay, so signing into one app compromised the whole identity, and as well that there isn't much you can do about it. There is a sign-in frequency in conditional access policies, but this helps just signing to a specific application. So if we do conditional access sign-in frequency for VPN, okay, the token or the cookie couldn't be used to sign into VPN after 1 hour, but still it can be used to sign in and access other resources of that tenant. So for example, Exchange Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, if you don't apply sign-in frequency for that. So you have already heard it, I believe, that identity is a new perimeter for us. The difference is that with Entra ID, there is different factors you can use to have or to possess or to log in as a user. And then if you log in on some computer, on some device, there are some artifacts left on the device. It can be username and password, it can be the PRT tokens, refresh tokens, access tokens, cookies, it can be a mailbox, because if some user has mailbox, maybe you can do self-serve password recovery. There are SAML tokens, and on some devices, maybe for the attacker it's enough to have access to the Exchange, OneDrive or SharePoint, which is actually being used on the device compromised. So maybe they don't need to have the user identity, they will be fine just copying out or exfiltrating the data. So what can be other threats as well? It's like there can be some threats outside our control. For example, Microsoft can make a mistake and it can compromise our data, or it can be a danger for our data. For example, what happened on July 2023 is Microsoft realized that token signing keys leaked. It's been an issue because with other bug Microsoft had, the attackers, they were able to impersonate every user except some maybe government or educational tenants, which are much like separated. But the attackers, they were able to impersonate every personal or work account and access emails of that account. Maybe they were able to access as well some other applications if they were not able to validate the tokens properly, and maybe some other data of Office 365, but it's a speculative because some researchers say that it was possible, but Microsoft still says it was not. I believe Microsoft, or it feels to me like Microsoft tried to downplay the issue. Yeah, I can see the reason why, because like this is a real security issue and everybody hopes that this problem never appears again, and we hope that it will not appear as well like this time, but it happened. Right now we as well know what caused it or how the token signing keys could leak. Microsoft says that it leaked through some crash dump which got into the like work environment of Office 365, where was some employee compromised, and they were able to get that crash dump which contained the signing keys. Okay, they said that they improved the stuff a lot, but yeah, it is we are trusting Microsoft as an identity provider. He can make mistake, but on the other side, I believe that for the most companies on the world, it's better to trust Microsoft than to try to do the stuff themselves, because Microsoft has money, people, and he's motivated not to screw up. So I believe it's better. Okay, so and then we can have problems, for example, with mobile phones. Right now, we don't meet these problems often, but I can see that especially in Android space, where a lot of people use smartphones outside of support, which are full of critical bugs, maybe they could be exploited, and the threat actors, they can control the phones to do passwordless authentication or steal the PRT, RT tokens which are on the mobile phones. Because on mobile phones we use Outlook, we access OneDrive, we access SharePoint. So all these kind of tokens, they are there as well. Like the same I demonstrated on the victim's computer. So I think that to the future, smartphones will be an issue, and we will have to think about it, what kind of phones we buy, about their life cycle, and that we will have to invest into the licenses, into the monitoring and defense of the mobile devices. And as well, I think that self-serve password reset portal can be an issue into the future, because if by default you just need one method to recover the user password, it's not enough. And as well, the self-serve password reset portal functions for administrators. And if you want to disable it for administrators, you have to do it through PowerShell. So I believe that most of the companies, they have self-serve password portal enabled for administrators. And yeah, that's it. So to summarize it, the initial vector to Office 365 probably will be through phishing. The phishing can have several payloads. You can target to develop malware on the device to steal the tokens, for example. You can target to theft the credentials from users, to do illicit consent grant, or to do device code flow. As well, the credentials, they can leak from other service if the user, for example, is using the same password and usually the same email to register to other services. Except of the phishing and credential leak from other service, the threats are the personal devices. Keyloggers on the devices, thefts of artifacts, which are the tokens or session cookies, or control of the compromised device, which contains the PRT token, to receive the new refresh tokens and access tokens. Good is, or one thing is, if we received refresh token and we handle the refresh token well, we can stay, or we can have access to user data for forever. And then in the future, we can see problems with for physical thefts of tokens, smartphones, which if they are not locked, they don't have a regular PIN, or the PIN has leaked, the theft will have the identity of the user, or the attackers will be targeting on vulnerable smartphones, especially with Android operating system, to do passwordless authentication to Office 365 services. And we have mistakes on Microsoft side which can appear time to time, but I believe Microsoft does what he can to not to screw up. Okay, so while I was studying for this intern training, I came through a lot of great articles. I just picked some of are single articles, some of them are whole websites dedicated to the Azure AD security and the stuff around it. So as well, I would like to thank very much to the guys who are doing a great job in research of Entra ID security and finding a lot of bugs and having Microsoft fix the bugs, because I believe like the communication with the Microsoft is not great all the time. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. I hope you have enjoyed the internet training. Soon I will be releasing second part, which will focus on lateral movement and persistence, and I believe you will enjoy it as well. So thanks and see you soon.